This is Canon Fodder, episode 24. Most of you will know my guest for his great work over at Will the Agency, as well as his Carousel podcast. I'm happy to have my friend Isaac Simpson, the Disgraced Propagandist, on. Isaac, how are we doing?
Good. Thanks so much for having me, T.R. Hudson.
Thank you for being on. So you had me read Phillip Roth's American Pastoral. And the way that we kind of got to this was you graciously had me on your podcast a few months back, and we talked about my recent book. And you said, "Oh yeah, no, this reminds me of Phillip Roth's American Pastoral." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome," because I know Roth is a big deal. I'd never read him, and now having read him, I'm like, "Oh, this is such a compliment." If only just that we kind of touched on similar themes rather than let's say content. But yes, I really enjoyed this book, and I'm so glad that you recommended it to me.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think I said that about your most recent work. Actually, I have more to talk about on your most recent work. Actually, I have it here. It's in my office. It's right here. The Perfect and the Wicked.
That's right. Yep. Available for purchase.
I don't know if there's a video component of this, is there? Or no?
I put it on YouTube.
Okay, nice. So yeah, here we have it. Yeah, so yours is kind of a Kennedy family dynastic family drama. And so that's also what American Pastoral is. So that's why I analogized the two.
So for those of you who haven't read American Pastoral, the book is told from the perspective of Phillip Roth's, his pseudonym, right? His stand-in character, Zimmerman. He's a writer. He grew up in Newark, New Jersey, which at the time was, a really nice, actually a really beautiful city. It has since fallen on very hard times. And Zimmerman remembers this one kid in his neighborhood, the Swede, Seymour Lvov, who was atypical of most young American Jewish boys in that he was tall, he was blonde, he was very handsome, and he was very athletically gifted. He was captain of the baseball team, football team, basketball. He did it all, right? And he was seen as the let's say the bridge between the Jewish diaspora in America and your sort of all-American beaver cleaver kind of guy, right? He graduates high school and he joins the Marine Corps so that he can go fight the Japanese in the Pacific. He's an all-American kind of guy. Actually, much to the chagrin of his parents, who want him sort of to focus on his studies, to become a professional, to eventually take over the family glove factory. And from the outside looking in, you see the Swede as really having everything. I mean, he marries Miss New Jersey. She's a beauty. He lives in this idyllic small town. Really, he's got everything that a man could want, especially in post-war America. Am I missing anything, Isaac?
Yeah, no, I think you've got it exactly right. Actually, I'm super interested. What did you say has gone down on its luck? Was that
Newark, New Jersey?
So, it's funny because I haven't actually read, I've read it twice, and I haven't actually, or maybe even 3 times, but I haven't read it in a few years. And I forgot that part about Newark being having gone downhill. That's like another.
And that was in '95.
I
right?
know,
and now it's like a really shitty airport. And that's the only reason you'd go to Newark.
Yeah, no, well, it's funny. It's like that urban destruction is another. It's like yet another reason why this book is such a masterpiece. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, I mean, you have it right. It's like, put very, very simply, it's a story about a Jewish guy who is trying to not be Jewish.
Right.
I mean, it's about a Jewish guy who's trying to be a WASP, or essentially.
But it's interesting as well because the main tension of his life is that he's trying to be a WASP. He has his ideals and what he wants out of life, but he's also trying to please every single person around him, right? He was stationed in, I think, in one of the Carolinas uh, when he was in the Marines, and he gets engaged to this girl whose father like wants him to be a football star or baseball star, something like that, right? And
Baseball. I think he's a baseball star.
right. And it takes his father comes down from New Jersey and doesn't leave until the engagement is broken off. He won't allow his son to marry a non-Jew, which, later on, there even actually the last part of the novel, Swede is remembering his father's conversation with him when he is engaged to Dawn, which is a look into the Swede's life. But yeah, I mean, if he would have chosen one path or the other, right, instead of kind of going down the middle, you have this feeling that he would have lived a more complete life or a more fulfilling life. But because he's half measured, it blows up in his face.
Remind me what, because of course I remember Dawn, who's Miss New Jersey, right? And
right.
Catholic, I think. Right?
Yes. She's a lapsed Catholic. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's who he ends up marrying. But who is this? I can't remember the first girl.
Oh, her name is, I got the book right here.
You don't have to say the name.
Dunleavy. Actually, I literally just opened up the the page, and she's also an Irish Catholic. But she's kind of a debutante. Her family is established in the South. He'd be marrying into a completely different world. At least Dawn is from where he's from.
Right. Yeah. Okay, but Dunleavy. So why is Dunleavy from such a different? She's from where?
I think she's from the South. So just generally,
so she's totally
exactly. Yeah. So his father comes down.
I remember this.
He puts the kibosh on the whole thing. And Swede, he's got like this. Have you read the book Stoner by John Williams?
But you're like the 8th person to tell me.
Yeah, no, it's my favorite book. It's my favorite book.
Okay, well, I gotta get.
And it's so good. And one of the things is Stoner. His whole thing. He kind of just takes everything stoically, like all this crap that happens in his life. He just takes with like a aw shucks, and then kind of shrugs his shoulders and moves on. And that's kind of what the Swede does through his life, even though he's got this rich interior life of just. He's like completely destroyed by, and we'll get to his daughter Mary and what she does, but it just completely destroys him from the inside out. But on the outside, you would think that nothing was bothering him. He's putting on this act.
Yeah, I've never read Stoner, so it's tough for me to judge. But it's like, I kind of know what you're saying about somebody who isn't also. Is it Tolstoy's The Idiot or Dostoevsky's?
Dostoevsky,
yeah, kind of a similar thing. But what's interesting about this is that you don't actually really know. The story of the Swede is told from the perspective of what is it? Zuckerberg? No,
Zimmerman.
Who's the alter ego of Phillip Roth, but you don't. It's kind of like he's speculating, right? He's kind of speculating. The whole thing is like a speculation,
right? It's bits and pieces that he's been told, which is just another really interesting thing that Roth is doing, because it's a frame device inside of another frame device.
Exactly, and it's very odd that he does that, because it just makes you think like, why? So you don't actually really 100% know what's going on with Swede, although you do, because so much of it is from his perspective. But I think the difference between a character maybe like Stoner and somebody like Swede is like, it's not that he's cool as a cucumber. It's that he, I think you said it best. He's living kind of for other people, right?
He
He's
has
like living,
expectations of him. There are expectations of him from others.
yeah,
In
and
fact, I
that's
think
kind of how he lives. He
yeah,
lives,
his dying words is, "I have to make it to the 50th anniversary, like the 50th class reunion. People are counting on me."
yeah,
You know?
right.
Yeah,
Wow.
and like that's that, and then he just dies at 70 from colon cancer.
Mhm.
It's it really just I was expecting to be like, oh, this is a fine book, but I really like this book, man. I can't express how much I'm. This is probably in my now top 10 favorites. Honestly.
Well, it's a masterpiece. I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
it's
definitely.
on the
Yeah.
level of. I mean, I think it was this is imagine this what they would make for this list now, but there was some list that was the top books of the the past of the 25 years, like 75 to
Right.
2000
Right.
or
Right.
something, and it was Blood Meridian, this, I think, and like Beloved, pretty
Probably
much, and it was, and like
probably
like
something by Pynchon.
Gravity's Rainbow, yeah, it's Pynchon, and DeLillo, I guess,
Yeah.
Underworld. And really, like, to me, this Beloved is great. I mean, as much as I hate it, it's very well written. I don't really like the book, but um
I mean, Toni Morrison is just she was an artist, as
totally,
much as
totally.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can not like her books and be like, oh yeah, clearly there was talent there.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the talent is yeah, undeniable.
Right.
Okay, yeah. So sorry, it was DeLillo's Underworld, Blood Meridian, Updike's Rabbit, all those books, which I never got into. But and then Beloved. Yeah, to me, it's pretty much like this and Blood Meridian. Like in terms of American, because we ask this question all the time: who is good in American literature, and that's mainstream?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is no one.
Well, these days, yeah, I'd agree with you. Yeah.
Right. So
We're
who
seeing
is
all
a
the last generation of greats really starting to fall away. Like DeLillo's getting up
yeah.
there. Pynchon, he's days away. McCarthy just died.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. So this is that whole generation, and we had I guess the whole Franzen and David Foster Wallace were after this, but they were really mimicking. I mean, particularly Franzen was mimicking this pretty much. But yeah, no, this to me belongs in the top of the absolute top. Like, it's really a complete masterpiece, and it's so much about America, particularly the East Coast of America.
mm-hmm,
This is a
yes.
book about the East Coast, and it's about the history of it, what's become of it, and the interminglings of so many different cultural forces. I mean, I love that it's called the tagline of it is like the story of the American berserker or something. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's really like about what's wrong at the core of America, right?
Yeah.
And it's also really about what's wrong at the core of the Jewish people.
The Jewish experience in America, yeah.
Well, and it's about what's wrong with it. It's
right.
what's really amazing is I grew up without any religion at all, but I did grow up around a few Jews. But I grew up in I'm on the Jewish episode because I am a Mishling, and I try and practice Judaism, but and so I didn't grow up with any religion, anything at all. Judaism was this very abstract thing that I was like very vaguely involved with. But then I went to college on the East Coast where you have these Ellis Island tribes that are still really like present. You have like the Italians and the Irish and the Catholics, and the Jews are like so strong, like in Jersey and Long Island, and you have all these layers of histories, and there's these Jews from here and there's Jews from here, and
like New Jersey Jews and Connecticut Jews just don't get along,
and
and they both hate New York Jews,
exactly. And you kind of like, you're like, whoa, this is like a whole world. I don't understand anything about this. Like, I was a total outsider to it, but it's so thick. Like, when you get out there, it's such a world unto itself, and people outside of it just don't really experience that at all. But it's a great microcosm for the country as a whole, because it's all about these division lines and what is the deep evil. Like, the division lines are all kind of arbitrary and funny, and everybody's trying to be a wasp, which is a big part of this book, is everybody wants to be a wasp.
Except the wasp, ironically enough.
What?
Oh, well, the guy that
except
Dawn ends up,
except for the wasp, which is perfect. That's so perfect, right? And then but what's like the demon at the heart of everything? It's this like strain of progressivism.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
the strain of progressivism is the destructive evil force that is like ripping everybody apart. And that's so convincing to me. It's like,
definitely.
It's like so based, kind of.
You read this book, especially today, and you're like, oh, this book could have been written in 2020.
Yeah.
It's actually, you know what, I will say that I mean, compared to then, leftist violence now is like impotent and like just, and maybe we're in like the preamble to something really horrific, and I pray not. But right now it's like leftist violence is like, yeah, they'll kind of try to burn down a federal building and then fail, and then everybody will guys will go to the Capitol and people will treat that like they're the Weather Underground.
Yeah.
It's very weird. It's like an impotent sort of leftist violence compared to the 60s violence then.
Well, I mean, this is my original red pill. We may or may not have talked about this, was Days of Rage. And it wasn't even reading Days of Rage. It was reading a review of Days of Rage. And Days of Rage is a book covering the bombings, the leftist bombings that occurred in the 1970s. And that's what this is about. I mean, that's what American Pastoral is about, that. And there was like, I think during the 1970s, there was like 4,000.
Yeah, no, it was
like
crazy.
4,000 actual bombings. These things were happening like every day. And it was left-wing groups doing all of it.
And then it got so bad I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. It's from the 2000s, Kill the Irishman. It was about the Cleveland mob, right? It's this Irish guy versus the Italian mafia, and like part of their war was they just kept trying to bomb each other, that was noteworthy because this took place in like the 70s, and it's like, yes, okay, this is just aftershocks of the tumultuous 1960s. Like this was a legitimate way to try and take out your enemies, and then later, of course, you get Unabomber, right? And that kind of is like the last bit of this this expression of violence, let's say.
Yeah.
We kind of get into the mass shooter kind of era,
right,
let's say.
Right. You go from bombing to going postal.
Exactly. There's like this little overlap, right, in the 90s, right, and then obviously we have the horrors of today, but it's very similar, very strange.
Right. And it's like the bombings are in some ways better because less people die,
right.
Like a lot of even the leftist bombings, that they were trying to tell people not to be there. But yeah, I mean, so much of the whole this and right today is built on mold bugism, and that is rooted in this notion of Bill Ayers has a fancy university job, and Chesa Boudin is the son of literal murderers. Like Chesa Boudin, the DA. It's all district attorney of San Francisco, and he is the son of left-wing bombing murderers. I mean, could you imagine if he was the son of Klansmen? I mean, it's the same thing, right? Yeah. It's the same exact thing, just the other way. And
it's not the same because we know where everybody's butter is, or bread is buttered. It's nuts.
Well, and what this book does so well, what American Pastoral does so well, is understand. It understands that, like it somehow telegraphs that it's like, this is the truly destructive force at the center of families, at the center of tribes, and really at the center of America. And it's like the indigenous American berserk. Like, what does that mean? That's what it's called. I still don't really get it, but.
Oh, that's interesting. Because and you brought up Blood Meridian before, and it reminds me of this line from the judge. It's like, the war has always been here, and it was waiting for its practitioner.
Yeah.
And we kind of see that played out in the United States. And this you could say is like another expression of that. Right.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's like that's why it's called American. Anything like he's obviously making it about America, right? Like This is his commentary on America. And yeah, I think obviously Blood Meridian is the same thing. Just Blood Meridian is about like manifest destiny, whereas this is about a much darker, in my opinion, a much more evil force, which is progressivism. And
right.
And the character of Mary is just like so perfect.
And it's really like progressive manifest destiny. Like they have this mission, their quote unquote mandate from heaven to sort of undo everything that the frontiersmen did.
Yeah, right. It's like reverse manifest destiny. It's true. It's like pick one or the other, And it's also this like feminine force, It's a feminine force. It's like, and that's why it's so perfect that he is, trying to go the other direction. And it's I think the core. Outside of the contextual sort of metaphors about America, or not even metaphors, just like illustrations, I think that the book is about perfectionism. It's like about no matter what you do, the darkness is gonna come out. Like it's going to find a way to eat you up. And what's really funny is that the Jewish characters, the two men who are telling the story are Zimmerman,
or it might be Zuckerman, actually.
I think it's Zuckerman, and the brother of Swede, right? So Swede's brother becomes a much more typical type of Jew. And again, like once you get out, I worked at a Jew camp for one summer in the Poconos. And you really get these types out there. It's like these kind of East Coast, very wealthy, baseball-loving Jewish families.
I mean, I grew up in a very Jewish neighborhood, right? And so I know, and it's one of those things. It's like people were pissed at Roth for a long time for a lot of his books because they're like, oh, you are stereotyping, our people. You're like bad talking us, but it's like, if like there's like I've met several people who would fit Jerry's description or Zuckerman's description, or the one girl at the high school reunion who was like, I wish you let me play with your tits back then.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is like he's clearly he's leaning into stereotype, but he's clearly got people in mind when he's writing these characters.
Definitely. He definitely has people in mind. And what I really love about it is it's resentful. Like what's beautiful about this book is that Roth is like talking shit. He's like talking shit about this guy Swede. And it's like I admire the ability to do that. I admire the ability to like be driven by anger. Like this book is it's angry, it's kind of like angry. It's an angry condemnation of hypocrites and people who live these kind of privileged lives. And it's like, this is what they get, this is what you fucking get. Like if you don't, and this is where it comes back to Judaism. It's like, if you try to not be Jewish, like this is what happens, like you can try all day to be a handsome, dashing blonde, wasp, and it's just not going to work. You're going to have a daughter who becomes a revolutionary, because she's fat, which is what happens in this
right book. She's fat, she has a stutter, and she like looks at her basically supermodel mother, and she like develops the stutter to like as a coping mechanism, but also as like an FU to her parents.
Yeah,
It's and then she has all these speech pathologists. She's like always, it's either psychological or it's this or it's that, and she's very coddled, right? Which is interesting because her uncle Jerry, the Swede's brother, who became actually like my favorite character of the book, I think.
Well, right, and so he's the one who meets Zuckerman, right?
Right. Yeah. At the
and he's a much more like Jewish, normal Jewish type of guy.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's also like, he sees America for what it's become and what it always kind of was. And he's did you ever see that movie Killing Them Softly with Brad Pitt?
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end, he's like, "Oh, America's not about togetherness. America's a business. Fuck you, pay me." And that's what Jerry is all about, and what he tries to get across to Zuckerman.
Yeah, well, and they're all being very Jewy. They're being very like, he's a plastic surgeon or something, right? Or like he's
or
like
a heart surgeon. He's a surgeon.
Yeah, and he's a very typical anxious, like neurotic Jew. Like they're all very anxious, neurotic Jews besides the Swede, right?
He's had 4 wives, and they were all his nurses.
Yeah, and it's like, but what it's saying is this neurotic Jew, he lived in a more honest life, right? Like he didn't get killed because he wasn't living dishonestly, whereas Swede was living dishonestly.
Right.
And so he got eaten up inside because he was like not able to handle the darkness.
Right.
Because he pretended the darkness wasn't there. And it's like eventually it got to him.
Yeah, no, for all of his accomplishments, right? The Swede was a coward.
Yeah, right.
And that's like, wow. Like
he couldn't really face people, and he couldn't face the darkness at all.
You know what it does, and I'm going to keep making references to whatever, but No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Ed Tom Bell, right? He's the old Western sheriff, and when he's confronted with something he doesn't understand, he freezes and he goes for self-preservation, right? He in his moment to confront Shigur, right, which can be seen as like the force of nihilism and destruction, he freezes and he's like, "I'm out. Somebody else can handle this," and that's the Swede as well. There's a part in the book where the Swede has an opportunity to find his daughter. He's being blackmailed for 10 grand. This other leftist revolutionary named Rita Cohen, she coaxes him into coming to a hotel room, and she's just chiding him the whole time, like basically threatening him and telling him, "I will tell you exactly what you want. I will bring you to your daughter. You just got to fuck me."
Yeah.
And like she's like flashing him, and she's like playing with herself the whole time, and she starts talking with a stutter to mock him because Mary has a stutter. And and the Swede, he has no idea what to do. He literally drops the case and he just leaves. He blue screens. He doesn't know what to do with this, and he beats himself up for the rest of the book. Like, "Oh, I should have done this. I should have just fucked her. I should have He literally he can't comprehend his life.
Oh, it's so perfect.
It really is.
Because it's like it's both about leftism and it's about Judaism, and it's like there's this deep darkness at like the heart of Jewish people. Not all of them, but it's like there's this like absolute insatiable desire to reverse like your parents. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason why I say this all the time, but the rainbow flags you see in churches now, the rainbow flags have been in temples for 30 years. I mean, the Jews have been subverting their own religion for far longer than the Christians. And there's like this, that's kind of what he's saying. He's like somebody like the neurotic, somebody like the guy telling the story, somebody like the brother who's who's the surgeon. These guys have, in a way, figured out how to embody that darkness, right? Whereas Swede ignored it. And it's like almost like his daughter and the other revolutionary girl, right? Yeah, who's like trying to, it's like the revolutionary girl who tracks him down and is sort of the conduit between him and his daughter. So his daughter, Mary, Merry, has, you know, she's fat, she has a stutter, she has she blew. Oh, we haven't even said the main thing of the book.
Right.
She blew up. She was like a Weather Underground type. She went away. She became a leftist, angrily. You know, Swede lived this perfect. I love the scenes of when Swede is walking to the mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's agrarian, it's baseball. He's a great baseball star, right?
His favorite book growing up is about a baseball player who like he has like this Jobish journey where like every time he gets something good in life, something he's taken away. He pitches like a no-hitter and then like breaks his arm or something so he can never pitch again. And Zuckerman's reading this book. He's like, "What is it? Oh, this is the worst book I've ever read. I can't believe that the Swede would read something like this. What is he getting out of this? You know, like
yeah. So he's living this like agrarian Thomas Jefferson waspy life in like rural New Jersey." And it's like he's walking to his mailbox and he just loves walking to his mailbox. He's got his Irish, you know, Shiksa wife who's Miss New Jersey. He's taken over his father's glove tanning factory, like leather tanning factory, which is also such a like typically Jewish New York like thing. Like that's like, so I think my great grandfather was like did some shit like that. But and so so he's living this like idyllic life that is very non-Jewish because his forebears have allowed him to like live this really, you know, kind of Clinton, like Bill Clinton, Thomas Jefferson, like, you know, this very typically American waspy agrarian sort of lifestyle, right?
his
But
wife even has a dairy at one point. Like a dairy farm.
yeah, but he's a fucking Jew,
right?
So it's like he's pretending, right? It's like and like he is pretending. He's not really this person, and yet he loves pretending to be this person. He loves it so much, and in a way, there's an innocent love for it, right? It's like his love of it is not. It's like genuine. It's like you can imagine this is what, you know, should happen to the Jews over a long enough time scale.
This is like what assimilation looks
like.
This
is what assimilation really would be, right? It's like that's what you eventually would get there. And then he has this daughter, only one daughter. She's fat, she has a stutter, she becomes a communist, like a Weather Underground person, and she blows up a post office perfectly, mail, the post office, and kills somebody, right?
My favorite line for that is like, she brought the Vietnam War to New Jersey or something like, you know, like she kills the town doctor, like an Irish Catholic doctor. She blows up because the town is so small, it doesn't even have a dedicated post office. It's a post office inside of a general store run by like this old couple who have run it forever, you know, and suddenly, you know, Mary has just not only destroyed this town in a sense, but destroyed her father, destroyed her parents' marriage, and, you know, just like destroyed his pretensions of being a waspish American.
Yeah, it's like he couldn't escape. He like couldn't actually get away from who he really was, and this was the you know, this was the comeuppance, you know, this was the final like way in which the truth of the world came to him.
But you can only live a lie for so long.
It's also like there's this, again, it's like it's getting to a thing that's impossible to articulate about Jewishness, but particularly the girl. So, okay, the daughter disappears. He can't find her, and it's haunting him. It's killing him, blah, blah, blah. his whole life falls apart after this. And then there's a scene in which he finds her, which is still, to me, maybe the most memorable scene I've ever read in any book. It's like he finds her and she is a Jane. She's become a Jane. And so it being a Jane, she wears a mask all the time because Janes believe you can't even like kill the bacteria, in the air. So they have to wear a mask so you don't kill anything at all, which is hilarious because she killed.
Exactly. And she like
what?
No, she completely she like almost doesn't acknowledge that anyone has died at her hand. She aloofly kind of yes, Dr. Conlon is dead and that's on me, but I also have to eat vegetables, and those vegetables, like she brings the act of murder down to the level of eating a vegetable. And like she sees those two things as equally morally abhorrent, but also like you can tell she doesn't believe it, and this is a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
To escape the responsibility and the culpability of what she's done.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's become this disgusting person. She's become a homeless person, right?
Right.
And it's like this rot. She's part of the rot of the city. And she's living in a disgusting, horrible place. She's like a prostitute. She's a drug addict. She's just disgusting. And he like tries to hug her, and he like smells her horrible like rot. It's like a David Lynch back of the diner moment. It's like he's convening with the evil, right? He's literally facing the evil, and it is his daughter. And it's maybe the most memorable scene I've ever read. And you just think about it all the time. But anyway, before he finds the Mary, and it's also spelled Merry.
I think it's like I think it's like short for Meredith or something.
Well, and it's supposed to be like Merry Christmas.
Right.
So Mary, and there's this other girl who is serving as the conduit between Mary and him as he's searching for her, right? And like, if you've ever seen the scenes in Mad Men where Don Draper convenes with the hippies a little bit,
right?
It's kind of like that. Like this is like a hippie girl who's like, "Oh, big man, what do you want to fuck me? I thought you care about your marriage, blah, blah, blah." And she's embodying this like chaotic evil. Like she's embodying pure chaos, right?
Right.
And there's something that is like inarticulably Jewish about that. I can't really explain what it is, but it's like a woman who is trying to bait you by being really disgusting and really sexually like completely outwardly like deranged. I don't know what it is, but there's like Jewish women, or not even just Jewish women, just Jewish women, when they want to fuck with you, they do that. I can't explain. It's like, this is like beyond explanation, but there's something so cosmically and like karmically Jewish about that type of pure chaotic female reaction to order, like oh, you think you're going to be orderly? How I'm going to do the absolute fucking opposite, and I'm going to fuck with you. Like, I'm going to fuck with your head by saying these like sexualized things that are really disturbing, It's like there's something so perfect about it.
And it's interesting too, because and her name is Rita Cohen, right, in the book.
Oh, so she's Jewish too, of course. Yeah.
And she only lets the Swede see Mary after it's too late, after she's been fully destroyed and sort of dehumanized, and like there's no way for the Swede to rescue her, but like once Mary is fully broken, then Rita gets to rub his nose in it and like, right. Look what we did. Look what we did to your daughter. Look what we did to your nation. Look at what we did to this life that you tried to build for yourself.
Yeah. And it's like, right. It's like, this is what you get. Like, this is, you tried to be, it's like, she wants to destroy him. She loves destroying him. And it's just this like snake viper creature, and it's just it's so good. I mean, it really is like, I don't know. It's like I don't know how Roth did it, but it's like he really just got down to something that's so profound, and he built these characters that really just feel so real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and he like you said, he wrote angrily, and he tapped into something like just deep in himself. And even his descriptions of Newark, New Jersey, right, where he talks about like this idyllic sort of childhood that he had, that the Swede sort of embodied, right? And the Swede runs the glove factory for a long time, right? His father has him start out as like a tanner. He starts out like sweeping. He's doing every menial job until the Swede knows everything in the world about making a glove, right? And how to make a glove. And he doesn't know anything else. All he knows is how to make gloves, right? And meanwhile, around the city in Newark, around this factory, everything is falling into chaos. Everything's falling into disarray. He has to ship. He has to open another factory in Puerto Rico because the labor's cheaper and because of unions. Right. He tries to keep on as much staff as possible, and like he talks about how like we've always had good relations with the Black community. Most of our oldest employees are Black, and we're not leaving Newark, right? Even though Newark's like, he equates it to, I think, taxes. He has like three things. It's like taxes, destruction, and race or something, right? Where every other factory owner kind of leaves, and they ship offshore, and the Swede talks about how it's done out of necessity, that these jobs have to leave if we want to stay competitive. And in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, this guy's he's literally helping destroy the Rust Belt. He's shipping these jobs overseas, and he's justifying it. And he's justifying it in a way because he's like, I have to keep my father's company going. This was handed down to me. But he's like, it's like a ship of Theseus kind of thing, like the Newark made glove factory is no longer made in Newark.
Yeah, right.
So is it still is that still the glove factory? Like, is it still this thing his father built? And it's not. It's another like Globo Homo piece of crap product that you'll find at like Kohl's.
So more blood on his hands for that. I forgot about that part. Even more. Wow. Even better.
Yeah, no, Roth. Yeah, he really just he shows everything that is wrong with the second half of the 20th century.
Yeah,
like the holes in the post-war consensus. Yeah, that were always there, that we only now is like the DR sort of like poking the holes in that, and only now are we sort of coming out of that politically.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's so true. And it's like, right, that's his guilt. His guilt is not having the balls to keep it in America, kind of, right?
Yeah, and if he had the balls to, he could have kept the factory in America if he had the balls to stand up to the politicians in Newark and say, hey, like, we are the business class, we're trying to keep jobs here. And in fact, the only time that he gets political is for Mary, because he joins like business leaders against the war, and like he's like, oh, we're gonna go to Washington. Mary, do you want to like talk to the senator? And you can tell him exactly what you're thinking. And she's like, no, I don't want to talk to the senator. I want to blow up a building. Like this isn't revolution. Like you're trying to reform the system. You don't know what's going on.
Oh yeah, and they have such good arguments. They have those arguments that are like, typical parent-child like horror arguments where
you don't understand me. Like,
yeah. Well, and she's asking questions that he can't answer.
Right.
She's asking him to explain things that he just can't really explain, and so she. It just gets worse and worse and worse.
They watch the immolation of the monks in Vietnam, and she's like, why is he doing this? and it just like has this huge effect on her. Philip Roth did such a good job with this book. It's can't say that enough. Let me think. What else?
I'm reading another book. If there's, I might as well say right now, called American Tabloid.
Oh yeah, is that any good?
It's Elmore. I can never. I know the guy's name, but I don't want to get it wrong. It's Elroy, James Elroy. So James Elroy was like the hard-boiled detective writer, right? But in the mid 90s, right before American Pastoral, he published this thing called American Tabloid that is like a retelling of Kennedy.
Oh,
it's
interesting.
a retelling of the Kennedy story, which is very obviously similar to your book, except it's like Jimmy Hoffa's in it. Kennedy, it's the Kennedy family. It's J. Edgar Hoover, it's Howard Hughes. So it's also this era. It's a little before the era of American Pastoral, but it's funny because it's like kind of it reads a little bit like a hard-boiled. It's so good.
I'll have to pick it up.
A little bit like a hard-boiled detective novel, and there's like parts of it that are a little over the top in terms of like violence that aren't like literary, you know. But it's funny that it was called American Tabloid, and this was American Pastoral,
right?
And they're both about this era of the '60s, but one is about the Kennedys. And like how that is sort of the quintessential American story, and then the other one is about Jews. But both books are so much about the Ellis Island tribes,
right?
It's the Catholics, it's the Jews, it's the blacks.
The Godfather by Puzo is that, but Italian. Especially the novel, because you have Michael, his whole ambition is to be a wasp, to be a Yankee wasp.
Oh, right.
And like he wants his kids to be Yankees, and he marries Kay because she's like this northeastern waspish type, and who actually converts to Catholicism to save Michael's soul. She's a lot more sympathetic in the novel, actually.
It's I just read like almost all of The Godfather. I wish I'd finished it. It's such a weird book.
Oh, it really is. Yeah. I mean, there's like how much page space is devoted to Sonny Schlong, or what's her Mancini, the Mancini lady, her giant vagina.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yes. That scene with her giant vagina is like, you don't realize, like it's so funny that the movie just,
we're just going to cut that out.
Yeah, he did not get into that at all. And also all the sex stuff about Hollywood and the singer.
Yeah. The Sinatra
it's such
type.
An odd book, dude. It's so weird. Like that book is so like deranged. No, it's so great. It's really good, but it's like it really is like totally one of a kind, because you can't tell. It's like, is this a literary book? Is this a book about sex? Is it about business? Like it's about like many more things than just the mob. Like, and the mob is only kind of a side thing.
And American Pastoral is kind of like that, but more refined, right? Because Philip Roth is a better writer. But it is about business. It is about sexuality. It's about trying to fit in, right? And it's only kind of about being Jewish in America, But one thing that I did notice reading it, and that those three books have in common, actually, I'm guessing that I haven't read the Elroy book, but I'm guessing it's similar.
You should definitely read it. I think
I will.
You would love it, because it actually goes it's kind of like an in between almost of. I think it would, given your interest in the Kennedys, you definitely should read it.
I'll definitely pick it up. Yeah. But those three books, right? It's the Ellis Island crowd, right? On the outside of what America is, looking in and telling America what is wrong with it. You know, it's like, you know, fish swimming in water don't know what water is, right? Kind of
Right,
thing.
right.
But you have these immigrant stories, these second generation people who are like, or rather first generation Americans to immigrant parents, more or less,
Yeah.
and their experience of the quote unquote American dream. Because you can read Gatsby, right? And even that is still a little bit more of like, oh, we are wasps, and whatever this Jay Gatsby fellow is doing is a corrupting force, and we need to retreat back to wasp land.
Yeah. Wait, so explain this point a little bit more. I'm like losing your point a little bit.
These stories are looking at what wasp society is, what America was post-war, and poking holes in the consensus, right? Poking holes in the idea that the end of history is liberalism. Obviously Fukuyama kind of writes that essay after the Cold War, probably a little bit before this book is put out, but there was even in Kennedy's sort of new frontier style, he's getting the brightest, the best and the brightest to work at NASA. We're going to be in the moon. We're going to hit the zenith of our civilization. We're going to keep going, right? And then the 70s happen, right? The late 60s happen, and suddenly everything is falling apart, and people are asking why. How did we get here? And it's these books that explain that.
I'm thinking of like how this relates to the context of Gatsby though, because so like when is because I know when the Jewish diaspora is like late 1800s, early 1900s, right?
That's the same for the Italians. Irish
Yeah.
are a little bit later, but like it's Ireland. It's like the 1840s to like
So
the 1910s.
when is Ellis Island?
That's that era, 1840s to like
So that's
1910s.
1840s.
Yep.
So Ellis Island is like the 1840s.
Yep. So you have a few generations of people come in, right? It's like really, I'd say probably from like the revolutions of like 1848 or like the Irish potato famine all the way to like pre-World War One.
Okay, so yeah, it's like mid 1800s. So this is even during the Civil War.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Gangs of New York is all about that. Like all the Irish coming in, and they right off the boat, and they're sent like to go fight. And they're all they can ask. They get their uniforms. They're like, oh, when do we eat?
So when does it stop?
Probably like the 1910s, like right before World War One ish. It depends, because like there was also a few waves of migration post World War II, but like my family came post World War II.
Really?
Yeah, no, I'm like second generation. Haven't been here all that long. You can't carve Hudson into into stone yet.
Okay, so I'm just trying to think. Like, so the Jewish diaspora. Like, I'm gonna Google Jewish diaspora. So Jewish diaspora has to be like, I'm gonna guess 1890 to like 1910.
Probably.
America.
Yeah, especially you've got like the Russians sort of kicking out their Jewish population.
A century of immigration. Oh, so they're doing it exactly in the no, okay, yeah. So it's like it's like 1880s, 1890. Yeah, 1881 to 1924. And so that's where like my diaspora people are from, and that's where it was because the pogroms, right? It was because Russia basically made it. They all left, and things were good enough here. So, but is that when does Gatsby take place?
Gatsby's 1920s.
So
right.
Gatsby's is the 1920s, and Gatsby supposed to be like a Ellis Islander who's faking it?
Well, some people say that. I remember like his name was Jay Gatz before he changed his name. So like it's never outright said, but like also his main business contact is an Arnold Rothstein type, right? Meyer Wolf.
Oh God! Why are two of the best books in American history about Jews pretending to not be Jews? I didn't know it. It's like both this book, American Pastoral, and that is about this a Jew pretending to not be, or pretending to be a wasp. It's so funny that like that's the why is this such a fertile subject matter? Well, and Godfather, right? It's like the same story over and over about Ellis Islanders pretending to be wasps. It's a huge problem.
and that's the thing about cultures too, is that you're bringing like an immigrant is bringing their culture to the new place, right? With the expectation, at least back then. Now it's like whatever, but back then it was like, okay, you're abandoning your culture to gain a new culture, to literally assimilate to the culture. And what these books show is that maybe assimilation isn't possible, or maybe, or not even preferable. That if you lose your culture, you lose your tribal connections to, say, your fellow ethnics, your co-ethnics, right? That when you fall, right, when you have hardships, there will be no one for you to stand with, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, people who do insulate, right, people who do stay part of their microcosm, right, and you can even say this for people down in the South, right, people who keep their Southern tradition and stick together, can outlast your carpetbaggers, your scalawags,
Yeah.
and it's like, as much as America is trying to create this monoculture, right, by just like, whether it's flooding it with immigrants from every place in the planet and just trying to make everybody this good democratic neoliberal, right? The people who buy into that, when shit hits the fan, aren't going to have the safety net that people who stay true, well, not stay true, but like who remember where they're from, kind of, have that safety net. They have that community, and I think that's the lesson of the 20th century, and I think that's going to come home to roost in the next 10 years or so.
So you're saying the lesson is to not abandon your roots, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Literally, don't become uprooted.
Don't become, yeah, right. Well, and as you said, I actually kind of forgot that the waspy character who Swede's wife inevitably has an affair with because he's a wasp, right?
Right. And he's like ugly, and he's like bald, and like
it doesn't matter.
All he does is golf. He was a Princeton man, like he. But like,
and she just like has to get with him because
and he cheats on her with the Jewish speech pathologist.
Oh, does he? I don't know.
Yeah, no, he has an affair. Sheila Saltzman is her name, right? And part of the reason that he gets pissed at her is because they've had this affair, they have this relationship, and when Mary blows up the post office, she hides Mary.
Oh.
And he's like, why did you do this? Why did you let my daughter run away? I'm her father. I should be able to take care of her like this. And like, we had this relationship. I thought we had this understanding. And it's all under the guise of like, they're at a dinner party at the end talking about Watergate and Deep Throat, the porno.
Yeah. Wait, what's the last moment with Watergate?
Oh, they're talking about at the dinner party. For some reason, the waspy guy keeps bringing it up, right? His father, Swede's father, is there, and he's talking about how much he hates Nixon and how he writes letters to congressmen like, this guy is anti-Semitic. You need to make sure you nail this son of a bitch, and like everybody's just enthralled with Watergate, but then also this porno at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's like, Watergate is just pornography, but on a news channel.
Wow. That's so, I completely forgot about that final scene. So what does that scene mean?
Well, so the Swede is like, he has the realization. One, he talks to Sheila Saltzman, his paramour, right? Who he learns his daughter was hidden by her after the bombing, and like he kind of places the blame on everything that happens to her on this woman, right? but he also has the realization that the reason that his wife has had facelifts is because she wants to please the Wasp, and that they are having an affair, right?
Yeah.
And the Wasp's wife is a drunk. His parents are like, doing the typical old Jewish thing. Like think George Costanza's dad in Seinfeld, where he's just yelling.
Yeah.
And he's realizing like, oh, my life has been a lie, but so has everybody else's life.
Wow. Yeah, I need to like reread the end of it, but that's yeah. There's also kind of an analog in terms of what you were saying before, about like there's an analog to be had with like I don't know, I don't know if you have kids, but if you have kids, you watch a lot of Disney films. So you kind of like see this like things, and there's this trend in Disney films that are obviously now made by Asian women or just Asian people, right? So it's funny because there's actually kind of like an analog situation going right now with these new immigrants that we have, and they're creating their own art, right? But what's funny about their art is it's all about, so there's this same tension of assimilation, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these Disney movies are like about this now. There's
Right.
tension of
Turning
assimilation.
Red
Yeah.
is one where like she
Yep.
wants to abscond with her tradition, right, and be like a normal kid.
Yeah.
Oh, there was that show on ABC, Fresh Off the Boat. I
Yep.
don't know if you saw that.
I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is
Yep,
basically
very
about
much like
this.
that. Yes.
And there's also the movie about the fire, the elements is about this. Very
Oh, right,
obviously
right. Like that, the fire element brings home like a water element boyfriend
yeah,
or
who's
something.
clearly like a
Look,
Jew.
look who's coming to dinner.
They're so it's like the water elements are so obviously a Jewish family because they're all like emotional and shit. Um, and so, but it's like so. There's these tension, like there's the same tension even with this like new group, like, and also it's probably not just it's probably not even just like Asians. It's also like the Mexican people are making similar
Oh,
movies about
definitely.
like the
It's
tradition, and yeah, you leave the tradition behind, basically, right? And uh, what's just so crazy about it is that the difference is that those stories end with like, oh, grandfather was correct, or mother was correct that tradition matters and I have to care about tradition. But at the end of the day, the happy ending was me marrying the cosmopolitan Jewish guy.
right. It's like, yeah, oh,
you know,
the tradition is nice, and we'll give it lip service, and we'll take the parts we like, but we'll leave behind the icky parts we don't.
right. We'll leave the part where I don't get to go, as Dasha says, go have sex with Jewish men in New York City to get famous. It's like, that's like, oh yeah, like dad was right. And I was so selfless and I really cared about all the sacrifices he made. But actually, the right thing to do was for me to go and completely abandon tradition and become a girl boss,
Right,
effectively.
and
Right.
that's coming home to roost right now. Like that lie is so clearly obvious, and the people who fell for it, right? More or less, like I fell for it for a while, and I'm sort of like kind of coming back,
Well, what do
trying
you
to.
mean? Well, how did you fall for it?
I mean, I was like a pretty cosmopolitan guy, especially when I was in college. I went to like an East Coast school. I was in the I was pretty promiscuous. I was like always trying to. I was in that striver culture for a while, right? And then luckily I met my wife, and we've kind of been on this journey of quote unquote return to tradition, whatever the hell that means. Even though she and I are both like ethnics, neither of us are waspish, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And but we're just like trying to, like, we see the writing on the wall, and we're just going to try and make it through to the other side, you know?
Yeah. Well,
And for the people who don't see that, or it's going to be too late in the next few years. Like, I think once the boomers die out, right, we're just going to see some really hard shit, unfortunately.
Well, what do you think we're going to see? Like, what do you mean?
I mean, I wrote a book about, my first book was all about what I think is going to happen.
Well, Automaton, which I love. I love that book. Automaton's great.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
But why do you think, I mean, like, okay, maybe the country will fall apart, but why does that, like, where does traditionalism fall into that? Like, why is that going to be the...
Because you don't have, what roots or what connections do you, especially in a city, what connections do you have to other people? You know, you might talk to your neighbor in your hallway, right? But, you know, once the food runs out, who's to say you don't kick down his door and eat him, you know, or he does the same to you, you know, in these more traditional communities, right? And most of them are more rural or more even suburban, where you have like a patch of land that, like, I have a backyard. It's not very much, it's not much, but I can grow tomatoes. I can grow whatever there, right?
Yeah.
I have a church, so I can lean on the people in my church, right? More so than somebody can with their fake and gay friend group, and they have stupid Friendsgiving together. And the only thing,
Friendsgiving? You mean the Friendsgiving group isn't gonna?
And the only thing that connects them is that they all have the same strain of chlamydia.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You know, like. This lack of connection, this loneliness crisis that we're all being fed right now, you know, like that. Like I don't know if you listen to Tim Dillon's podcast. He's really funny. He's an LA guy, and he talks about how the latest psyop from the government is the loneliness crisis. Right. The only reason that everything is so terrible is because we're all so lonely and we don't have friends.
Yeah. What does he say about it?
Oh, he says that it's bullshit. He's like, you know, if it would be easier to have friends if you weren't worried about your next meal and like how much debt you're going into and how it's impossible to buy a home.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the socialist take. I mean, I think that or like you know, Magdalene Taylor, the writer, kind of encapsulated well, like, or no, I think maybe the Red Scare girls, they were like, yeah, it's like a society in which they're like telling you to have sex is like, you know, so unsexy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're all sexually liberated. We can all like, here's our sexual interests, and I'm going to consent to do this and this. It's like, that makes everybody so incredibly not horny.
And it's also it's also when it's like fat, dysgenic, ugly people that are doing this. It's like, oh, that's the worst thing possible.
Right. It's like they're generating. It's like by trying to generate connections between us, they're just making everyone way more depressed. Like Friendsgiving. Yeah. What is more depressing than Friendsgiving? Like nothing.
There's birthday parties for pets.
Oh, dude, I have to go to so many of these fucking events here, and it's like I just push myself further and further away from normie existence, you know, and because it's it's like the whole having a normal one, you know, like let's have a normal one, like let's go to this birthday party and sit around and fucking talk about, you know, jack shit. It's just
did you see the Pfizer commercial at the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Oh,
I wrote an article about that.
Let's not.
Well, no, I'm saying that you at one of these parties, you got to like kind of temper that, like, oh, did you know that this is actually X, Y, and Z? You know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like that's what's so. I mean, honestly, but the great, amazing red pill clear pill, white pill that is happening is us gay. You know, I know the big anons think I'm a doxing ring, but I'm not a fucking doxing ring. and like getting together, and not just getting together and sitting around, but doing business together is the best fucking feeling in the world, man.
Right.
I say all the time, you would not believe the pay cut that talented young men will take if they can simply say the N-word on the business chat. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but think about it. Think about how much you would pay to work in that environment. And it really is real. Like, if we can build economies where we can hire each other and grow this shit up, man, it's like you don't have to have a normal one, man. You can be a complete fucking lunatic, which is what we're built to be anyway. I mean, this is what creative young men are built to be. And it's like the money is there, man. The money is fucking there. It's just you have to learn how to get into this stuff.
Swede Lvov was having a normal one, and
Yeah,
it
he was
killed
having
him.
a very long normal one.
It literally killed him from his asshole out.
Having a normal one kills. That's the
I think I might put that as the title for this.
The story of American Pastoral.
I'm trying to think because there's so much to this novel, but I feel like we've hit on most everything that I wanted to talk about. It's funny, like, Mary has like this pseudo intellectual leftism, right? That is clearly just talking points that she's heard, and which, I mean, is like just every talk with the leftists that you have these days. Like Roth preceded the NPC meme by like 20 years. But those are like the least interesting parts of the book, is whenever she speaks. But meanwhile, you have Dawn, the mother, who is like an actual character. Like her story, just because I want to cover every base of the book, right? Her story, as like the only reason that she got into pageants is because her dad was hurt at work, couldn't pay for her brother's college, so this was meant to pay for her brother's college, and that she never wanted this life. She never wanted to. She wanted to be a music teacher, and she resents the Swede for his pursuing her, and also his weakness and his trying to make her something that she never wanted to be.
Oh, right, because there's that whole strain too, that she wants to be like right.
Like
she doesn't want to be,
she can't even have friends who are other women because they all get jealous of her and that afraid that she's gonna steal their husbands.
Oh yeah.
Which then she actually ends up doing.
Yeah,
ironically enough, right? But like this fantasy that he has isolated her.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and it's like, it's she, because I can't totally remember, but yeah, she wants to be like a music teacher, and she never gets to embody that, right?
And she
she's resentful of him because
she has all these sort of odd jobs and like hobby horse kind of things, right? And one of them is the farm, and the thing is, he's like, whatever will make you happy, right? I'm gonna provide you this, and you can do your businesses, and they always fail, or she loses interest in them, right? Because like the thing that she always wanted to be is like eludes her,
right?
And she's always at dinners, and she like gets her face in the paper, and she gets really pissed at the newspaper. She hates she meets the governor at some point, and like they dance at something, and it's like she doesn't want to be a beauty queen, and she hates that she has to be the beauty queen on the Swede's arm to facilitate his fantasy.
Many such cases.
Exactly. Have you seen the movie?
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that, right?
Yeah, I think we should. We'll wrap it up. We'll talk about the movie.
Yeah,
we'll kind of wrap it up.
I tried watching it, and watching Ewan McGregor try and be the Swede was just so bad.
I've come to dislike him as an actor. I have like he's have you read A Gentleman in Moscow?
No.
It's a good book. I reviewed it on one of these episodes if you get the chance, but really good book. Amor Tolls, he wrote in like 2017 or something. It's about a Russian aristocrat who is put under house arrest in the Hotel Metropole in Moscow, and he like lives through communism as a prisoner. Really good book, and they just started a show. Ewan McGregor stars as the Count Rostov. And he's like, that dude just has no charisma.
He really like Big Fish was great.
I loved Big Fish. Fish,
but it's something. Yeah, he's also just the worst. Like, it's funny that it's like
People
why?
love him because
Yeah,
of his Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm sure he's a nice guy, and people always talk about what a nice guy he is.
yeah,
He's like the wholesome Chungus Keanu Reeves type,
yeah.
and he has all the right opinions. And his wife is Scott Pilgrim's girlfriend. So like, but man, I just don't like his acting.
Well, and it's just totally the wrong character. It's like,
Hmm.
wait, it's horribly cast. Like he's the least. He just doesn't seem crypto Jew at all.
You know,
Like
like
you kind of have. That's like a huge part of this. And of course, they're not going to handle this, right? It's like to tell this story, you have to go so deep into Judaism and liberalism. They're never going to get like
no, no, of
they
course
can't go
not.
there. Like there's no way.
There'd be panic.
Yeah,
You,
right.
you know,
If you like really told the story how Roth wanted it, like yeah,
this book is like dynamite for a certain type of northeastern Jew.
yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean, it's about the donor class, right? I mean, it really is about the donor class, and it's a kind of like a deep story of theirs, but yeah, no, I didn't. Did you see it? Did you watch it?
I have it queued up, and like I'm probably just gonna watch it just because I really liked the book, and
I tried, and it was so disappointing that I had to like turn it off. I was
yeah,
just like,
I feel like that's just going to be one of those things. But I just wanted to talk about how much I don't like Ewan McGregor, so I thought that I'd put
wait,
that in.
who are the other characters? I want to see.
Oh, I don't even know. Let's see.
Dude, I will say Jennifer Connelly, perfect.
Oh yeah, and that's
exactly
funny
it.
because I think isn't she half Jewish?
Yeah, I think she is.
So it's funny that she kind of embodies the waspish, like that assimilation thing. Like her last name is very Irish, it's almost Americana, and yet she has this background. So it's interesting that the roles are kind of reversed there because McGregor is, as far as I like, pretty sure he's just a British guy.
Yeah, well, it's true, but she really is perfect. Like when you're reading it, you like basically visualized Jennifer Connelly,
Right?
like
Yeah.
as the Dawn character. But it's like, yeah, come on, Dakota Fanning, give me a break. It's like it's totally horribly cast, and yeah, they're never gonna let you like tell the story correctly. So I'm amazed that they even made it at all.
Well, I mean, I guarantee that somebody misread this book and it's like their favorite book, but for like the wrong reasons.
It's like I feel like it's Ewan McGregor himself.
Oh, maybe. Oh, actually, that's
because he directed it.
Oh,
So
did
I
he? Oh my
guarantee, yeah, Ewan McGregor like read this book and was like, "Oh, it's amazing," and just completely misunderstood.
It's like this is the American dream deconstructed.
Yeah, and he just like thought it was good, but didn't understand.
Like maybe because he's not Jewish, he can't fully grasp. Because you brought up things where I was like, oh yeah, I guess kind of, like there's just a reading of it that without knowing you can't.
Well, look, there's a reason why the Bolsheviks were all Jewish. There's a reason why the hippies were all Jewish. There's a reason why so many, pointing finger at myself, so many of the dissident right are fucking crypto Jews. It's because
I'm not going to put this on YouTube now.
This urge to overturn, this urge to revolute, and to particularly talk about it and write about it and take these kind of risks on these movements. There is something inherently Jewish there's something about being Jewish that draws you to these things. And I don't know, this is a very complicated answer to why. I don't know why. And, it's not necessarily an evil instinct because revolutions happen, right? And we certainly need one now, right? I mean, like these fucking commies, we got to get rid of them. So it's not bad, I don't think, to be involved in, that initiative. But this book is a lot about that. It's a lot about the inevitability, no matter how good it's going for the Jews, right? No matter how amazingly just why can't you just fucking assimilate? This book is really about like an answer to why.
It's like because our parents assimilated, we hate our parents,
and we hate our parents no matter what.
And because they represent oppression, they have X, Y, or Z. It's really fantastic book. I know we're coming up on time, so I want to make sure that you're able to plug your stuff. So Isaac, where can people find you?
Sure. So the thing I would like people to read right now is I just published an extremely long, like 6,000 word treatise on propaganda through the lens of the Super Bowl and through Edward Bernays' book Propaganda, which is really not a particularly good book, but and I talk about why that is a little bit in the book, or in this long piece. But I did a thing on Substack where I did did a guest post on this guy Simplicius's blog, Dark Futura. And Dark Futura is great. It's basically like globalist analysis. He did a thing of like the menu at Davos, or like the actual, not the menu, but like what the people at Davos were like looking at while they were there. Like he's on a very cool beat. He's great, and he has a huge following, like 50,000 or something. So I did a guest post on his thing, which he was very gracious to do, and it like did very well. I got like 600 new subscribers so far. And I want people to read this piece because I think it will help the right. I think it'll help our guys. It kind of answers the question of, is Travis Kelce a psyop? And I think it kind of answers it like beyond a reasonable doubt. So I hope that people will read this. I worked on it pretty substantially. I was going to submit it to Passage Prize, but then it just would have been too long before it came out. So I decided to do this instead.
Especially with the Super Bowl.
Exactly. It was already getting stale. Like it was already stale. And so I was like,
we're in baseball season now.
Right.
We're about to have the NFL draft. Like who cares about the Super Bowl kind of? No. And I started it and I've enjoyed what I've read so far. I just got to the Bernays part. So we'll definitely have a link to that below. I have all your links in the show notes.
For sure. Yeah, no, I run the Carousel is my Substack. I'm Disgraced Propagandist on Twitter, and my company is called Will, WILL.
Yep. And I enjoy your work. I really enjoy your podcast. Your recent episode with PCM has been great. I wish that he showed the double dealer in the episode, but
he didn't, did he?
Yeah. But speaking of which, if you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe, whether it's on YouTube or on Substack. If you really like this podcast and you like our stuff, consider buying an issue of the Double Dealer. Issue 12 just dropped. You can also become a paid subscriber to our Substack. None of the money goes to us. We funnel it all back to writers and artists. And so far we've given out like something like $1,000 plus in royalties to writers. So, we're going to keep doing this as long as we can. And with your support, we can do it for a long time. I don't know how to end podcasts, so we'll just say insert ending here.